Once upon a time, a long time ago in France, there was a handsome prince who lived in a lavish palace. He really loved decorating himself and his palace, so he charged the villagers a hefty tax. He only invited beautiful girls to his palace parties. The prince was quite proud of his looks and his wealth. One night, a terrible storm hit the kingdom, and in the midst of it, an old woman stumbled into the palace. As soon as the prince saw her, he got really angry because all he could see on her face were wrinkles. But still, the old woman pulls out a rose and gives it to the prince. But when the prince sees the wrinkles on her face, he tosses the rose away and starts making fun of her. The old woman tells the prince that beauty isn't just about looks, it's about what's inside, meaning a person's heart should be beautiful. Even after hearing this, the prince talks to her rudely. The old woman can't take his disrespect anymore, so she transforms her appearance. In reality, she's Anne. There was a beautiful sorceress who came to test the prince, but he failed her test. She realized that he didn't have any love in his heart, so as a punishment, she turned him into an ugly beast. She also cast a terrible dark spell over the whole castle and everyone living there. Years went by, and no one remembered the prince and his servants because the sorceress's magic made everyone forget them. The sorceress had given the prince a magical rose. If the prince learns to love before the last petal of that rose falls, and in return, someone loves him too, then the magic cast on him and his servants will wear off. But if that doesn't happen, the prince will remain a devil forever. Now, let me tell you about a girl named Belle who lived in a village near that castle. She was really beautiful and loved reading books, especially love stories. Belle's dad fixed watches and loved his daughter very much. In that village, there was a guy named Gaston who was after Belle. Belle really liked him and wanted to marry him, but Gaston didn't pay her any attention because he was super arrogant and didn't think anyone else mattered. One day, Belle's dad was heading to the city and asked her what she wanted. She said she wanted a rose. Her dad said, "Sure, we'll get one tomorrow." So, as he was making his way through the woods to the city, suddenly lightning struck and blocked the path ahead. He had to try taking another route, but on that path, they ran into some terrifying wolves that are thirsty for blood. While trying to save themselves from those scary wolves, they rush into the prince's castle, which a sorcerer had cursed years ago, turning him into a beast. As soon as they step inside the castle, they notice that it's really beautiful inside, and it seems like someone lives there, but they can't see anyone. They spot a dining table with candles lit and a lot of delicious food laid out, and seeing all that tasty food makes Belle. Dad can't help himself and starts eating the food, but then a cup in front of him starts talking in a kid's voice. Seeing this, Dad freaks out and runs away to save himself. But as soon as he steps outside, he spots some roses and remembers that Belle asked him for a rose. So, he starts picking flowers from the rose bush, but suddenly the devil pops out and attacks him. Luckily, Belle's horse bolts away from there. Belle runs straight to the village when she sees her dad's horse alone. She realizes something's wrong, so she asks the horse, "Where's Dad? Take me to him." The horse takes her to the palace. As soon as she gets inside, she hears her dad yelling. She rushes upstairs and finds her dad trapped. It turns out that the evil guy had locked him up because he took flowers from his garden. Belle had tried to steal something, and her dad tells her, "You need to get out of here. This palace is alive. It's not safe for you at all." Just then, that devil shows up. He looks pretty terrifying, but Belle isn't scared of him. The devil says to Belle, "Your dad stole one of my roses, and for that, the punishment is life in prison." Belle asks, "Life in prison for just one rose?" The devil replies, "That rose ruined my whole life." So, life in prison is actually a light sentence. Belle responds, "Alright, let me have one last chance." Belle wants to meet her dad, and the devil says the door will only open this one time. After that, it'll be shut forever. Saying this, the devil opens the door. As soon as it's open, Belle rushes in and hugs her dad, but tricking him, she pushes him out of the room and shuts the door. Then she tells her dad, "I ordered a rose, so I should get the punishment." According to that devil, the door won't open again, which means now Belle will face the consequences instead of her dad. Belle did this for a reason. She did it because she loved her dad a lot and didn't want him to face any trouble at his age. After all this happened, the devil kicked her dad out of the palace, meaning he was free. Meanwhile, we see Belle sitting alone in that cell. Suddenly, A candle stand and a clock come up to her and start talking. Belle is completely freaked out, wondering what's going on. The truth is, all the workers in that palace were cursed by that witch, and they were all turned into something. They hadn't turned into any kind of object, but they could talk and do everything a human could. They both took Belle out of that prison and said, "Come on, let's take you to your room." Everyone felt like Belle was the one who could free them from the curse by falling in love with the prince. But how possible is that? We'll see. They took Belle to a beautiful room, which was really stunning. When that villain found out Belle had been given a room, he got furious about the candle and the clock. But Candlestun gets really angry and says that the prince might be right. This girl could break the magic spell because we're getting more and more lost every day. The devil says that girl is the daughter of a thief, and Teapot chimes in that it doesn't mean the daughter has to be like her father. You should give it a shot. After a lot of requests, the devil agrees because the state of the palace today is all because of that prince. Now, he goes to Belle and calls out to her from outside the door, asking if she'll have dinner with him. Hearing this, Belle replies, "What do you mean? Are you crazy? First, you locked up my dad, then me, and now you want to have dinner with me? I'd rather die than eat with you." Hearing this, the devil gets really angry and says, "Fine, I'll make sure you starve." With that, he storms off to the western part of the castle, where the same rose that the sorceress gave to the prince is kept. The devil notices that a petal has fallen off that rose again. I was left with just a few petals, and as soon as the last one fell, the devil would remain a devil forever. All the workers in the palace, who had turned into statues, would become stone. Meanwhile, we see Belle's dad running into the village, shouting that a monster has kidnapped his daughter. He lives in a castle deep in the woods. "Please, save my daughter. He'll kill her." But nobody believes him. Everyone thinks he's just joking around. Some things only happen in stories, but Gaston, being Gaston, tells Belle's dad that he believes him and will help save Belle. He's just trying to impress him. Belle's dad, hearing this, is pretty happy that Gaston is willing to help. So, Gaston takes Belle's dad into the woods with his buddy, but once they get there, Belle's dad forgets the way to the castle. This really ticks Gaston off. He thinks Belle's dad is useless. He's gone crazy because he can't believe there's a palace in the woods and a monster has trapped Belle in it. This really ticks off Belle's dad. Belle's dad asks him why he even showed up if he didn't believe him. Gaston replies that he wants to marry Belle. Belle's dad tells him that dream is never gonna happen. Hearing that, Gaston gets super angry, punches Belle's dad, and ties him up right there. He leaves it under a tree and then tells his friend that once the wolves take care of them, there will be no one left but him for the bull. Gaston's friend isn't too keen on all this, but Gaston doesn't listen to him at all. The next morning, a lady named Agatha shows up at the bull's dad's place. She had been kicked out of the village for some reason, and since she knows the bull's dad, she saves him from ending up in the wolf's jaws. Meanwhile, we see the bull wandering around the palace and eventually reaching a rose bush. She's about to be touched by the bull when the devil shows up, yelling at the bull, "What are you doing here? Do you have any idea what could have happened? Our lives would have been ruined." He tells the bull to get lost. Angered by this insult, the bull storms out of the palace. But just a little way down the road, dangerous wolves corner the bull. Before they can attack, the devil arrives and fights the wolves, taking them on and driving them away. But in this battle, the devil, he gets pretty badly hurt from the attack since he was already in rough shape. The bull goes over to him because that guy saved his life. Somehow, the bull manages to help the guy onto his horse, and they head back to the palace. Once they arrive at the palace, the bull takes care of him to help his wounds heal. When the bull returns to the palace, everything in the palace jumps for joy because the bull is their last hope to get rid of that curse. The bull tries to find out the secret of the rose from everyone, but they don't tell him everything. They only mention that as soon as the last petal of that rose falls, the prince will be stuck as a devil forever, and we'll all turn into lifeless objects. Belle loved love stories and poetry a lot. She was sitting with that devil, humming a verse, when he completed her line. Belle was taken aback and asked, "Do you know poetry?" The devil replied, "Yeah, a little." Belle said, "I really love love stories." To which he responded, "Just the name of love stories makes me feel sick. If you're going to read, at least read something good." Saying that, he brushed Belle off. Seeing such a big library, the bull gets really excited because he couldn't find any books to read in the village, even though he loved reading. The mischievous devil tells him that if he likes the library, then it's his from now on. Hearing this, the bull becomes really happy. Over time, the bull and the devil become friends, and their friendship starts to deepen. They spend a lot of good time together. The bull teaches the devil how to live properly, plays with him, and chats a lot. Now that devil starts to really like Belle, which means he's falling for her. One day, he shows her a book and says, "This book was given to me by the witch who cursed us. With this book, we can travel through time, whether it's the past or the future." The devil suggests that Belle should think about going to the past because she wants to meet her mom and figure out why her mom left her all alone. So, when Belle travels to the past, she discovers that her mom had a dangerous infection. She didn't want Belle to get the infection either, so she told Belle's dad to take her away from him. Now that Belle knows this, she's really upset because she had no idea about the truth. Meanwhile, we see Belle's dad who has made it to the village. He tells everyone that Gaston tied him up in the woods and left him there to be wolf food. But Gaston denies it, saying he didn't do anything like that. Belle's dad responds that Agatha knows everything. Gaston then asks, "What do you think the village knows?" Everyone's gonna believe the testimony of that wandering beggar. Gaston's friend knew everything too, but he denies it because he knows if he testifies against Gaston, Gaston won't let him off the hook. Now, everyone thinks Belle might have run away, and her dad has lost it over it. Meanwhile, we see that devil, and Candle's aunt tells him, "My lord, I think Belle is starting to like you. This is your chance to win her heart." But that devil denies it all, saying, "That's not possible." To this, Candle's aunt responds, "The king said, we only have 4 petals left on the rose, and we don't have much time." With that, he got the candlestick all set up for that devil. Everyone worked together to get the bull ready too. The bull looked no less than a princess. The devil lost his mind when he saw the bull. The bull loved to dance, so she started dancing with the devil and had a blast. After dancing, the devil said, "It's been years since I danced. I almost forgot what that felt like." The bull replied, "I used to dance with my dad." The devil says, "So, you must be missing them a lot." The bell replies, "Yeah, a ton." The devil then asks, "Do you want to see your dad?" He hands the bell a mirror and says, "With this mirror, you can see anyone you want." As soon as she hears this, the bell quickly looks at her dad, but when she sees him, she gets really upset. The truth is, the villagers had tied up her dad because they thought he was crazy. Seeing this, the devil says, "You should go back to your dad. He needs you." And he adds, "This mirror, keep it with you. If you happen to think of me, just remember that I quickly get out of there to save my dad." But the bull gets really sad because he fell in love with Belle, and he knows he'll never be free from his curse since Belle isn't coming back. His friends are pretty upset too because Belle was their last hope. Meanwhile, we see Belle arriving in the village, telling everyone that my dad isn't crazy. There really is a castle in the woods, and that's where I came from. I'm coming, there's a demon living there, but no one believes what Belle says. So, Belle shows everyone this demon in the mirror, and they all get scared. Belle says, even though he looks like a demon, he's really kind-hearted. He hasn't harmed anyone and never will. Hearing all this from Belle makes Gaston jealous. He realizes that Belle has started to like the demon, so he starts stirring up trouble among the villagers, saying that the demon has cast dark magic on Belle. She's talking crazy just like her dad, so lock her up with him too. After that, Gaston starts stirring up the villagers against that monster. He says we should go to the castle and take him out before he gets us all. Hearing Gaston, the villagers get really scared and grab their torches, marching towards the castle. When they get there, they start wrecking the place, but they're shocked to see that everything the castle belongs to a human. The villagers see what's happening and, scared for their lives, they all run away. Meanwhile, we see the devil, who looks really sad because he's feeling pretty lonely since the bull left his life. Just then, Gaston shows up and tells the devil, "Looking at you, it seems like you really loved that bull. Did you really think it would love you back? It sent me here to take you out." With that, he shoots the devil, and he falls down. Just before Gaston could shoot that monster again, Belle shows up and tries to grab his gun. In the scuffle, Gaston's gun falls to the ground. Seeing Belle, the monster gets really excited. She tells him that she tried hard to stop the villagers, but she couldn't. Seeing Belle gives the monster a boost of courage, so he goes over to Gaston and lifts him up with one hand, hanging him over the edge of the castle. Realizing he's about to die, Gaston screams in fear. It seems like he's begging the devil, "Please don't let me go, I'll do whatever you say." The devil didn't want to kill him, so he lets Gaston go. After that, the devil goes over to Belle, but Gaston seizes the opportunity and shoots the devil twice from behind. This seriously injures the devil, but the ground Gaston was standing on suddenly collapses, and he falls to his death. Meanwhile, we see the devil taking his last breaths, and Belle says, "Now I'll never leave you," she says, but the devil replies, "Sorry, I have to go. Just seeing you one last time is enough." As soon as she says this, the last petal of the rose falls. The once lively things in the palace suddenly go lifeless, meaning the curse from that sorceress has wiped out their existence. When the girl sees that the devil is really leaving, she starts to cry and tells him, "You can't leave me. I love you." So, Agatha shows up there, the same woman who the villagers thought was crazy, but the truth was something else. Agatha was actually the sorceress who had cursed the prince many years ago. Now, when Akia finds out that Belle has fallen in love with that devil, she decides to lift the curse she had put on him. She creates this beautiful light, and when the devil comes into contact with it, he transforms into a gorgeous prince. Belle is over the moon because she finally found her dream prince, the one she'd always been searching for in love stories. Everything comes back to its original form, and after so many years, they can't express their joy at seeing it again. Now, everyone in the village comes to see that sparkling palace. Looking at its splendor, it's hard for anyone to believe their eyes that they are really seeing such a beautiful palace. Now, the bull and the prince come forward to declare their love. And with that, the movie comes